Hey everybody, Brian Von VA here, back at it again with another set of TTRPG stories talking about the very art of seduction. And before we begin anything, I do have to say this is a sponsored video and you'll be learning more about our sponsor very soon. Until then, let's get right into what's the weirdest thing a party member seduced? Bard tried to seduce Escalating, which is fine and dandy. Escalating looks like a beautiful woman. From the waist up, anyway. Then you see the rest, and it's 6 giant wolf heads around the waist, over 12 kraken tentacles. The problem is the Bard succeeded. It still counts as one. Bard's last words. One time, we were stuck getting past a certain room in a dungeon because there was a basilisk guarding it. Well, we couldn't fight it. We were too low on spells and health. So our Bard decided to seduce it, wink wink. Oh, it was hard, and he had to do it blindfolded. None of us happened to have a blindfold on us, though. He couldn't have done it without the help of our sponsors at adamandeve.com. Adam and Eve is the largest marketer of adult products in the United States, with millions of satisfied customers the world over. Oh, they offer discreet packaging, by the way, so that nosy, uber-conservative paladin in your party won't get all uppity and start lecturing you about your sins when your delivery arrives. They even have a full staff of experienced customer service bards on hand 24/7 to help you, yes you, get the most out of your newly acquired loot. And if you order right now at adamandeve.com using code RIP, that's R-I-P, you'll get 50% off one item and free shipping to your US or Canada-based dungeon. Some exclusions do apply. Adam and Eve, helping bards seduce, well, anything, hey, we don't judge, for over 50 years. Thankfully, my main group doesn't really get into a lot of weird seduction moments. Well, at least they don't seduce weird things, but they occasionally do get into weird seduction situations. Like when our barbarian Tartan decided to seduce an elven princess in the middle of a mission to protect someone else, while the elven princess's boyfriend was sitting at the table. Now keep in mind the player was told that this companion sitting at the table with the princess was her boyfriend multiple times. But somehow, he completely missed that. That was until the three of them went back into the princess's room, where Tartan discovered that apparently he was bisexual all along, and even his player wasn't aware of it. Heck of a way to find out. The White Death from Rime of the Frost Maiden. Minor spoiler alert, whap whap. The White Death is a blind ancient white dragon who ages ago was friends with a human whom she let ride him. He died a very, very long time ago, and now it is just a corpse stuck in his saddle. She still talks to it as if he were alive. She is a CR20 threat. Now our kobold paladin is a naive goofball. We've had serious bad luck in our random encounters, and while every other character chooses to appropriately flee for the second time, we encounter this endgame boss, we were level 4 at the time, and he decided to approach and seduce. Cue the DM's "Are you sure?" moment, and then the player whips out handwritten poetry that he made specifically for this situation ever since the first encounter. Oh, this guy was prepping. DM states that he gets advantage on the consecutive charisma checks that he will have to make and informs him that he will be competing against the White Death's tolerance of mortals with each one. Translation, he needs to roll higher than her wisdom saves, which he rolled so that the other players could see, but not the kobold. Now the player rolled well. DM didn't roll above a 3 5 times in a row. If he had succeeded once, the kobold would have been eaten. No saves, instant death. Instead, the White Death is amused at his antics and gives him a scale. Oh, that's cute. DM is shocked, but is taking it pretty well. The players are shocked and amused, and the kobold's player writes down that his character now thinks he is immortal. This is one of those situations where character matters. The White Death, who has a name but is hard to spell, let alone pronounce, thank you for not making me pronounce it, is so well known that even the local kobold clans, which our kobold was a part of, avoid or flee from her. The only reason we've lived in both encounters with her is the fact that none of us are even snack-sized combined. Survivors of a certain incident where some people who tried to worship her claimed that she screamed, "Leave me alone!" before freezing and squashing the now past tense cultists. Oh, that's just all sorts of weird and a bunch. I need to know more. Tell me more about the cultists. For now, it's a clone of the goddamn Manchun. With my explicit warning in and out of the game. Essentially, it started as awkward attempts of inviting him on a date from the wizard. It ended up with one of the most evil and paranoid wizards in history of the Forgotten Realms overhearing the wizard PC say, "Oh, by the way, let's don't kill him when we steal the MacGuffin from him. Oh, I like him." Well, Manchun wasn't really all about that. The only merciful thing on his part was using power word kill to execute the wizard. Oh, then? He turned the wizard's head and soul into a flame skull, his hands into crawling claws, and the rest into a zombie. He then teleported that nightmare into the house owned by the PCs. And then all the PCs ever heard from then on is, "Hello, welcome, it's me. How are you doing today? Am I not merciful?" Of course it had to be the Bard. Why not? Why not the Bard? He tried to seduce another PC who was a vampire, and that PC's sister who was also a vampire. And then the Kraken who was attacking the ship that they were all on. There were 2 successes that day. Take a wild guess on which. I'm gonna say it was the Kraken twice, because good luck trying to seduce a PC, because they're not gonna let that happen. But a Kraken? Come on. That would have been awesome, all right? The vampire chicks, we know. Vampire girls are hot. Kraken girls, come on, let's get cracking, am I right? My rogue somehow managed to end up in a drunken one-night stand with a Medusa. I guess he didn't need Viagra. I blame the DM for this, and it was at his decision to have us roll for random backstories. It happened before the campaign, and part of his backstory is that he's trying to raise money to support the daughter that came out of that encounter. The daughter, a green tiefling fathomless warlock specialized in hold person type spells, was my backup character. He really did not need Viagra for that one. A lock. It was our second ever session, I believe. Nearly all of our players were new to the game, including me and the DM. The players came across a locked door leading to a villain's secret laboratory. The key was hidden somewhere within the room they were in, but being new players, no one even thought to look for said key. We all just assumed that the lock had to be broken. However, after a failed attempt by both the party's barbarian and fighter to break it, the party fell silent in defeat. Being as it was only our second session ever, I decided to give a hint to the party that they may need another skill to open the door. Well, the party sorcerer decided I was referring to his charisma skills and decided to, well, you guessed it, seduce the lock. Now, originally, I wasn't going to let that slide. However, he managed to roll a modest 17 without modifiers, and both I and the lock gave in. Ironically, the sorcerer decided to keep the lock for, safekeepings, until our artificer decided it would make a perfect projectile for a catapult spell. Now it's a running gag that all locks in the world have a personality that can easily be seduced into opening. TLDR, our party sorcerer seduced a lock on our second session ever and later allowed it to be used as ammunition. There's a lot wrong with that scenario and I hate it. Horny halfling bard in my second campaign managed to seduce a mimic, which he didn't know was there. He was trying to seduce the inconspicuous cup. Out of the 20 cups in the room, he just so happened to seduce the only cup mimic in the room. Again, there's a lot wrong with that. Well, one time a bard in our party, well, that's literally it. One time there was a bard in our party. One time our bard in our party seduced a hydra with only his charisma. Well, a nat 20 is always funny. And begin an underground trade of hydra eggs for gold. That hydra later killed lots of people because it was jealous of a female NPC getting too close to its, lover. That was really funny, but not for the DM. And yes, we used the hydra to cheese many a minor boss. I mean, hey, win in Rome. I'm not sure if the fighter seducing and then marrying Tiamat is the weirdest, or, as I mentioned on another post, the grave cleric changing his deity after a very intimate encounter with Thanatos. Although the weird part is that Thanatos started, ooh, God, that's gotta be a little awkward. I hadn't had a lot of seduction happen in my games, and the one time someone tried, he rolled a natural 20. He seduced a general for the big bad evil guy, a demon prince. The freaking general of the demon prince. Well, I mean, at least he got demonic on that ass and boiled the hell out of it, I guess. A plasmoid. It was the 12th session of the game. The party was exploring an abandoned factory, and the sorcerer seduced a plasmoid that was living there. They rolled a nat 20, and the plasmoid joined the party. No seductions, but I've had some clutch suggestion spells. One was a very bigoted fire and brimstone high-level bishop. We have a party of last chance criminals of eclectic races, and with a chance to earn our freedom on a dangerous mission. So he was not a fan. Got us a long rest instead of getting run out of town with a new deadline of noon the next day to GTFO. My changeling Great Trickster Warlock managed that lucky break for us, against the bishop's high wisdom. The other was a grandfather, lord or a duke, of a dead noblewoman who was accidentally poisoned years ago by a party member, and who had been planning revenge for years. Party member had been a besotted assassin who outlived her usefulness. Grandfather hid that he knew who the party member was and had just been waiting for the right moment. My bard managed to convince him that it would be good to nurse his grief that night. There'd been enough killing on this day, and his path would look clearer in the morning. Great time for my character to fail, though, because we'd split the party during a masquerade and needed to find each other and get out of town before Duke's men got sicked on us. It did buy us enough time to rent a soon-to-be pirate ship to GTFO, though. Grateful I didn't have to seduce that very old man. I did have a sorceress settle down with and marry a helpful male silver dragon who'd tag along with the party from a portal from Faerun into my sorceress's home world. That really strengthened the sorceress's bloodlines in the family, as you could imagine. That was more an epilogue thing, though, no seduction rolls required. A virgin nun. Now that doesn't sound too bad, right? Oh, it sounds pretty bad already. Well, that is true, and surprisingly it was the rogue who did this, due to a series of nat 20 persuasion rolls and not a bard. She just happens to be one of the big names in her religion, and is essentially close to a pope for them. The issue was that she was a "my body is my lord's" type. After making it with the rogue, she proceeded to have an existential breakdown, worrying about her sins, and became convinced that she could never repent from it. Oh, ironically, her god doesn't actually care if his disciples fornicate at all, because to him, it can bring new life into the world. And as he's the god of life, well, there's really no downside there. So basically what we're saying is she followed her own selfish belief, developed a mental illness because of it, despite the fact her god doesn't care. So now she's constantly fighting against horny urges, her religious pretense that she inflicted on herself, and lusting over one of the PCs. TLDR, PC dick was so good it caused mental turmoil and religious questionability in debatably the holiest woman on the planet. Holier than thou, boil the hell out of my water. A flame skull. The Dragonborn sorcerer went full bard mode that session. Thank goodness she didn't get an nat 20. A Warforged running for governor who is also the big bad. Also, family means different things to different people. Sometimes a family is a vampire dragon, me, a robot, and our adopted werefox son, another PC. That's just, that has a Sunday morning cartoon written all over it. I also want to add that the DM for that game is trying to seduce the dragon mom of their ship's captain in my game, so we, two straight men, are flirting with each other in two separate games. Okay, this is a twofold. The rogue seduced a rat king. Bit of a backstory though. The party was shrunk down so the rat king was huge at the time. This was a one-shot for Christmas. And then we went on to a campaign. Later, the rat king became the rogue's pet. The bard did the bard thing and seduced a dragon, but a fairy dragon, so not a big one. He was then married to her and had kids. I did ask the DM if was okay and all that, and the idea was shared around, and the bard kind of went for it. Cthulhu. Do we have to say more? I'm not going to explain any further, other than they were a bard and the player watched a lot of anime. I can hear one-shot questers, "I fucked Cthulhu good," playing on repeat in the background while reading this. I can also imagine the amount of kaiju stuff that we're going to be getting in the comments from this too, so thanks for that. Hey everyone, Brian Von VA back at it again, checking in after the vid. Please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, ring that bell, and of course leave a comment down below talking about that time that you or a party member, or just a story you've heard in passing, talked about a seduction that was really weird, wild, or epic. Also, make sure to check out our lovely sponsors, Adam and Eve. Yes, Adam and Eve, you heard that right. Go get your seduction on all around the world, nerds. We love you all. Please be safe, happy, and healthy, and make sure to use code RIP, that's RIP, for 50% off your first purchase. All the love. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.